was a big incident, and it's affected your life tremendously. So you say it started at 7:10 in the morning on November 20th?
Yeah.
Let's start right there. Chronological order. Let's stay focused on this topic. And just walk me through the entire day.
Yeah, so my day-to-day was going to the embassy, and showing face, or showing my face and talking through if there was a meeting. It was weekly and bi-weekly, DOD briefs and stuff, but there was no mission for me there. So I just kind of try to look for work, and there's some ranges and stuff, so I was able to start at least. Hey, you guys want to train? Anybody want to train here? And just getting trying to get that going, and because I had all my kit stays in my ready kit bag, and I was able to. It's just like Rolling Thunder or a North Face duffel roller, and my basic go to war gear. My helmet, guns, my rifle, my pistol, my body armor, my panos, and that's your basic, assaulter uniform and stuff. And, so I got a phone call that morning, the day of the attack, and the phone call went something like this, where it was someone at the agency, wanted to call to notify me about an attack they'd been made aware of that was ongoing, and it was 5 to 8 gunmen shooting up the front of the hotel, the Radisson Blu, in Bamako, Mali, and explosions, and that's what they and launched from what appeared to be embassy driver or embassy vehicles, and that was the situation report, right? And they called me twofold. They let me know, and then, but it's not like it was mobbed to. Really, I was the next door neighbor of the deputy, and they couldn't get a hold of him. So can you also go check on so and so? We can't get a hold of him. Can you help us out? But when I'm knocking on the door of the next door neighbor, the deputy chief, he opens the door. He's on the phone in underwear. And he's just picking lint out of his belly button, and he looks at me. He's like, "Oh, I'm on the phone." I'm like, "No, there's the attack's going on. There's an attack going on right now, and I don't know exactly where the hotel is. I know it's close, and I can hear gunfire." So I'm like, "That's definitely close." And it was about 3/4 of a mile or less from my house, which are like townhomes almost. And he's like, "I'm on the phone." Yeah, no, I'm on the phone with some of our guys in the hotel right now. Staying there. To me, it made no sense why that hotel was even on there as a good place to stay when, looking at it, the reason they chose that hotel is not only the density of people, Westerners. If your mission was to kill as many Westerners as you can, you could throw a stone from across the street and hit the front of the huge front glass windows, because it's a soft target in the sense that it doesn't have any standoff. It's not in depth. Yeah. They have all these security apparatuses and mechanisms, but barrier, from a vehicular assault, but it doesn't stop people from, driving by and kill and reaching out and touching. He's like, "Yeah," it just kind of gives me and I'm like, "Hey man, either room numbers, their cell phone numbers." He's like, "Why?" He's like, "'Cause I'm gonna go get them." And he goes, "Record stops." What do you mean? You do that? I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going there right now."
Yeah, motherfucker, there are Americans.
That's a start. For me, I was like, "Thank you, please." Jeez. Now I have room cell phones, and now I can get on the horn with them while I'm maneuvering en route, absorbing everything as it's happening, and processing to come up with a plan of action to execute. Moving to the hotel, we kind of drove around and got into the front instead of driving right past it. Kind of leapfrogged around, dismounted, and then kind of walked up, patrolled up.
What are you carrying?
I had just a t-shirt, the civilian t-shirt, and Prana stretchy pants.
Nice.
Sometimes, it's a Nacho Libre reference. And then just like some shit kickers, dude. And like, good thing they were pretty sturdy.
Plates, helmet.
Yeah, get my regular like JPC with plates, helmet, my HK 416 with my normal accoutrement, you know, and then my Surefire RC2 suppressor and stuff like, and then my panos. But no more. Like I didn't have breaching tools. I didn't have like bangs, or I didn't have all the extra little bits of kit. That would have been really nice to have. This one American just like called and said that he's trapped in a room on fire, and he's hiding under one of the banquet tables, and they're shooting over top of him. Please come help me. So between those two calls, there's a lot of noise, and I'm like, just filter through this. Like, which one is life? That one. So threat to life. I'm like, let's focus on this one real quick. We're going in to get this Terry, the first American, in that room, the banquet room, because it was on fire, and they were imminent life threat, right? It's threat to life of Americans. So I was like, all right, that's now the pressing start point for me. And the fact that they knew I wasn't going to go through the front doors, they shot the whole fucking place up, like going in, and they faced a bulk of the people in the breakfast room, and that's where they ended up focusing their attention to get the most kills from the timing, right? So like 7:10 in the morning, that's breakfast time. To the time I entered, it was about 7:45, but I entered through a side door. I had to basically break into a side entrance, service entrance or whatever, and then work my way through all these conference area, you know, big huge rooms on the perimeter of the building or of the hotel. And I was able, that opened up into the main foyer, where it was like, if you think about embassy suites, where it's like an atrium, or almost 3-sided atrium with floors all the way, you know, it was like 7 stories. And you go into the atrium, and it's like 2 spiral glass staircases kind of going all the way up on each side. It's like super exposed. And it's just like the most like overly stimulating snapshot I'd have ever taken, because I was absorbing all out front and like everywhere around me, because every corner I was the guy up front. Every thing was sensory overload, and it was the smells, the sounds, the fire alarms, the smoke, the haze, the smells of death, in Western dress. It was something that my brain was like, what? It was like short-circuiting a little bit, because I had become so desensitized to life and death, but in certain environments, in certain dress. And that's just, I think that's a part of a self-defense mechanism. But for one, I didn't get a chance to prepare my mind, body, or spirit for violence, with planning, contingencies and rehearsals, and with each other and a team and a troop, and then you go out and do these things, and they're like incredible, but you buy risk with a collective experience and rehearsed plans of action that you just in place in the unknown, right? And I was just in reactive mode, and I was fully exposed, my mind, body, and spirit was, and it was just awful to see.
How many bodies were you seeing? I mean, how many people were?
A couple. The first few were just kind of like sporadic in the foyer area, and then no, they killed 23 people total, Westerners, to include one American citizen. Anita Datar was her name. And I know that name, and I'll never forget it, her face, and because she was the last one I needed to get confirmation on. I went back to her room probably 5 times that whole day, and cleared it again and again, and then I was able to confirm that she was one of the killed during the initial. They chased them through the breakfast room, people, and then they set that room on fire. And then just were stacking furniture. They were trying to burn us down. And then They chased everyone through the kitchen, and that's where Terry got left behind, the American that was in the room that they had set on fire, and he wouldn't move. He was just like froze in that wherever he was in that room. But I kicked the doors in to him, and I mean, even making it to that floor to get there was this big. I was like, you cover 2, you 10 to 2, like anyone. I'm like, fucking pull security and cover me while I move, because I'm about to make a real big movement. So I had to run out and get on this spiral glass staircase and just mad dash it, like to get up to the floor to hold up and then bring them up. And then I went in and just went right into kicking these French doors in, and it was like a cloud. The whole room was full of just fire and smoke, and I just ran in there, and it fucking floored me, because I was like, well, I can't breathe. Imagine that. But like this mindset of like, it's a self-created problem, man, but like it kept getting lower and lower to the point where now I'm on my belly, like with my gun, like low crawling, gun light, yelling his name. And I'm like, wait a minute. First of all, no one's coming. I can't see any further. And I don't know which way is the fucking door I just came from, because I can't see. So I was able to like crawl the fuck back out. And then I was like, this isn't working. At that point, I was able to, for one, like know which direction he was, because it's a huge room. And then it lifted enough to where I was able to get deep into there and then like pull him out by the, like he just looked like death, man. Like he had talked to death, and he said, nah, hold up. And I carried him out, and loaded him up and in a car. Like that's where it was integral for having RSO and the relationships they have, because they were working the embassy, like drivers and stuff, like shuttles. Like, stand by, I'll let you know what I got. And then it was like, I need my fucking boys. I can't do this alone. And that empowerment, that trust is like, it allowed me to be effective, to be agile, make decisions on the ground. And what I talk about is tomorrow problems, like I watched happen, where the Marsoc cats were just being called every 5 minutes, man, on their cell phones. Like, what are you guys doing? Like, you shouldn't be in there. You're going to get in trouble. Like, you're going to ruin the platform for our source options. And I'm like, hang the fucking phone up right now. I'm like, tell that motherfucker that's a tomorrow problem. Did you hear right now? Because what they're doing and what they did was cast seeds of doubt into any of the decisions that they were making. And if all of those decisions were resting on the fact that they trusted me, and I wasn't in their command, but the moment from their command, 12 hours away, mind you, says, well, you guys shouldn't be seen running around in full body armor. That's kind of like, oh, ruin this platform. I'm like, first of all, you can go fuck yourself. Second of all, that's a tomorrow problem. We'll deal with it. But there's lives like that can still be saved. Like, where the fuck, what planet are you in or on, But they just casting those seeds and planting seeds into somebody that I had to be staged on and with me in this moment. And as much as I tried to say, fuck that, we'll deal with that later, started being like steps and steps become an arms display, so then I was just like, holy fuck, I feel like I'm like flat out alone in here. Even though moving with me, you're not where you're not here. You're too far behind. And then here, check, rock out. I was able to form a list where I have, which I wanted to show you, but I started forming a list on some scratch paper I found on the ground, because I didn't have a pen and paper on me like a good soldier. I had everything else. But I just found a piece of paper, and can you hand me that bag? I want to show you this because it's important. So I grabbed a scratch piece of paper from the street and started writing down like names and room numbers in my excellent handwriting. And somehow it survived. Like, it's like super barely hanging on, but this is the list that I started to form, and it started to kind of, these are room numbers and names of Americans that they were unaccounted for. And you can see that Anita Datar was on that list pretty early. I was able to get to her room pretty quick, but she wasn't there. And then
What are the scratch names off?
after I rescued them, like going to the room and confirming that they are that person, and I think I kicked in like 54 hotel doors.
No shit.
Yeah, it was like, the master key, right here. I'll give the SEALs that, man. That whole like mule kick. That's where it's at.
Works.
It does. It saves energy. And it was like comical watching people trying to, even with bridging tools. I was like, "What are you doing? What is that thing?" The French, when they came, I was like, I'm like, "Step aside, please." I got really tired, like tying bed sheets together on like the 6th floor. Like this, my man had like 3 sheets tied together. He had a good 30, 40 feet of just prop before it didn't even touch the ground. And I was like, first of all, don't do that. I'm like hand and arm, because I don't know if you're gonna, like I said in English, but I don't speak French, and who knows if what languages they understood or spoke. But the pointy, like me saying no, and then having people like relay it. But I'm like, don't do that. For one, that's not gonna hold up. And so I was like, just barricade yourself in your room and don't answer the door for anyone. It was like, all right, if I find the closest stairwell to this bank of rooms, I'm just gonna go right up this stairwell, because there wasn't an outside fire escape or roof access, because I wanted to get down and work my way from the top down. But I did a whole sweep around the whole hotel, and there was no fire escapes. So I was like, I guess I'm going. I didn't want to go up the spiral staircase, so I went to like the fire stairwell, fire red stairwells, and went to the lower floor. Like, so if it was 7, 3, 1, 2, 6, and 1, 8, I went to the stairwell that was going to get me closest to it when I popped out on that floor, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then when I got to the 7th floor, I couldn't get in the door from the inside because it was a crash bar, emergency exit. So I didn't have the tool or anything to like pop it from the inside. So I actually went down a couple floors and then that led me into this like outside area of the hotel. But to me, I was just still in the hotel. But at that point, I had went around to the back side of it where I went up that stairwell. And this whole wing of the hotel wasn't even on. It was like additions that they made. And it wasn't even on like the emergency exit plan or anything, like, and which I took with me to capture that how fucked up this hotel was. For one, like, this is what you have briefing on the wall here. Like, there's parts of the hotel that aren't even on this, like additions, the whole wings, and just so chaotic. And as I'm going up that other stairwell in between the 3rd and 4th floor is when like I'm about here in the clearance on the stairs, and like running upstairs and then like trying to clear, and then the gunmen are like coming down the stairs and they're on the landing, and then we like lock eyes, and I stare down his muzzle from 5 feet away. Yeah, he's like right here, and I just go, oh fuck, but I look through his like beyond muzzle and into his eyes. I saw a change in his demeanor. I saw a shift because he was not expecting to see me. Big American flag, panos on my head. He's like, holy shit, without saying it. And this is all like very rapidly. But the next thing in mind was, well, that's me. I'm fucking dead. And he cracks the first round off, and I black out for a split second. I mean, I got knocked out. Like, I thought I was in heaven or hell. And I just, like, it's all fog and haze, but like, I'm like stumbling down the stairs, and it's like almost like things are moving in slow motion, and I'm like shooting back, and he shoots like 5 more times, and they all hit like just in this concrete stairwell right around, like pop, 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 like right, like Samuel L. Jackson, man, Pulp Fiction. And so for me, the intervention piece, like I just couldn't see it for what it was. And I just saw red back up the stairs and yelled. And I actually cussed him out, called him a bunch of basic ass bitches. And I don't know where that came from, but my lungs. And then he yells Allah Akbar at me and fucking pops the primer on a grenade. And I hear that. It's very audible. You know, time delay, pop, like a Russian style grenade, the pineapple looking one. And I've heard it a ton in Afghanistan, and I know, so I was able to yell aid and get out of the way, relative cover. And that thing just bopped the fucking shit out of me. And somehow I still, there's moments of blacking out right there or knocked, like unconsciousness, but then coming back to, and it's just, my teeth were just fucking like loose and dangling, you know, but I was just, you know, just holding them in place. Because I was like, I'm the only person that could stop these motherfuckers right now. And when they threw another grenade on me, I was like, fuck. I don't have what I need to deal with, like, to deal with this. I can't. They have the position of tactical advantage in this stairwell. I was like, go get any Malian security forces that you can find now and get them up here. And I said that very calmly just now. I was yelling it. And basically, whoever they could muster up there, I was just up and down the line. Like, this is your fucking country. These motherfuckers are right here. I was just going straight up Patton speech on them. Like, and I was like, you fucking shield. They don't speak English. And I'm just like English fucking screaming, and like they're like, we. I'm like, you understand this, you know? And I was just so fucking, like, I was hurting. So I just used overwhelming violence of action to mask any of the pain I was feeling right in that moment. You take this shield and go over there, and I basically place this dude. I'm like, go over there, and like, he got to the base of the stairwell, and like, they took one shot, popped the shield from up here, and he drops it and takes it to the house. He's like, I served my country, see you later. Like, he was gone. And this was a Malian, all right, next, you know, like, get the fuck over here. And then this guy's up with a gas mask on his head and a pistol. And he's like, I got you. He didn't say that, but he gave me the look. And I was like, all right, don't let them fucking move. And then I cleared the rest of that wing, you know, kicking in every door, freeing not just Americans, but anyone at that point. I'm like, now I've locked them into a position. They couldn't go any higher because it was a condo that they were trying to find. What I found out later, they had some pocket litter. They were sterile. Like, they didn't have like comms. They had comms, but they were burner phones, and like they had some pocket litter that had the room numbers of like in the 6 series, like 600 whatever, a bank, and that was where the Air France crew was staying. So like Air would fly in there, so their crews would stay in a certain wing every time, and trying to get over, just like I was, to the certain wing or bank of rooms. And you know, our paths crossed very early in this process, and they were no longer able to. It went from, you know, killing and making as much of a impact as they wanted to or could, to survival and barricading themselves. French came from the assault force from Burkina Faso, the neighboring country. One of my old teammates that was embedded with them, helping them, you know, target and do things, and he hopped on a bird with them. There's like 12 of them, but when they showed up, it was like almost 1 p.m.
Holy
I ran
shit.
into the stairwell with them at like,
It's like 6 hours later.
yeah, it was like 8 something. Kicked in one door in that wing, and there was a dude in Western dress, just like with his shot right through his head, like, and I was like, look back at the door. I was like, there are holes in the door. Like, how the fuck did he get hit? And after I cleared the room, I was like, there's no one in here. And I kicked it in, like the deadbolt and the throw latch both broke off the door. So like I cleared all of it, right, and cleared it out of the door frame. And I was like, it really like bothered me, not just the fact that he was like, you know, one of the people that were killed, innocent people that were killed, but like even in that, like I was like, this doesn't make sense. Like, why, you know, from a physics perspective, I was like, wait a minute. And I found out, you know, because I went back with the FBI almost in an unhealthy manner of times to do my own sensitive site exploitation, but really trying to make sense of it all. I put a suit on and went back in there like every day. They were knocking on doors, and then if anyone that would answer their door, they would just, like, even just through the people, not people, but the throw latch still engaged, the hotel, right? So it like shuts it on itself, and once you let it go, I mean, they would knock lightly, and this one guy, he answered the door, but just stuck his head, you know, through the crack. He was like looking through the crack, and they just smoked him right there through the crack in the door. And when that troop came from the Burkina Faso, like, I finally was just like, all right, let's fucking go, like, and I was like, hey, here's the deal. Like, I went over there and was like to the commander, I'm like, who's the fucking charge here? Who's in charge here? I'm like, here's the thing. Like, they're right here. We got them. I got them pinned down. Like, I can take you right to it. They were like, oh yeah, you come with us, but just stay in the back. I'm like, roger that. I've been up front all fucking day. I'll stay in the back with you boys. Let's go. And then I'm like, you know, doing all the, it's taking so long. Like, it's all this commotion up front, and I'm, you know, now I'm like, they shouldn't be, like, there's gunshots, and I'm like, who the fuck are they fighting with right now? And there's one of the Malian, like, security force dudes, like, shot one of the fucking French, like, in the top of his helmet. That was scary as shit. Like, they're down in a Salter, and, you guys want to intermingle in the teams now? And I'm like, roger that. And I just kept getting further. Then I'm like in the team, just flowing with them, and that's the testament to, like, the ability to not be so, like, indoctrinated and to just, it took me 2 rooms to kind of, like, adapt to their techniques and not get in the way. Because at that, like, I could like fall on my sword here. You guys are doing this all fucking wrong if I wanted, but not that they were. I was just extremely grateful to be a part of any sort of, like, competent assault force. When my boys were, like, they were getting up in North Carolina, and the guys in Germany were, like, loading in the city, like, but they were 10, 12 hours away, 18 hours away. The American that was killed was in a service elevator area that a group of them, like 15 of them, like, if they would have kept going, went right, like a turn, and then freedom down a hallway, exit, freedom. They went through that kitchen into this service elevator, and there's bodies in the elevator, in between the doors, like, closed on them, and then outside of it, they're all executed from, like, point blank range, and you can't unsee that. The smell. I gave it all. I died in that stairwell.
How did that day end? When they got to the barricade?
We killed them eventually at, like, we ended up, like, bounding around and coming in through, like, a rooftop thing, and then crawling down this condo and locking them down from underneath and then below. And I mean, I think the French threw everything they had, like flashbang and, like, concussive grenades, but it was just flying right past them. And they had this corridor where they could just spray down the hallway, and then they had the stairwell, so they had them locked down. And so we couldn't come up from underneath. Like, we had the dude that was the French dude was holding the shield guy. That was his job. I'm like, you're the fucking shield dude. And I was like, and he was like this young, probably 20-something-year-old kid. And I remember this because, like, he got shot, I think, through his, like, broke his hand, and then maybe got, like, shot through his, like, the superficial part of his arm or whatever, so bandaged him up. But I was like, he got within a foot of this corner, where the barricaded were in this storage closet, just to get close enough, but took like 7 rounds in this fucking shield from a foot away, and was balling after that. And the guys weren't dead. They threw in because the guy behind him was able to get close enough to throw on an actual like offensive like frag grenade on top of these cats, which was this huge faux pas of like, you don't bring frags on a hostage rescue, man. And I'm like, well, what about in this case? So I know that we came back and I was able to like bring the tactical lessons learned to change the way we think and train. I mean, that's my legacy there. It's not like to make an impact on that type of organization that is massive. And it's not like, oh, look, it's me. It's just like we evolve as a fighting force. That's why it's so capable. But as a collective, I still stayed in the hotel for another 3 hours clearing the rest of the hotel, like room by room. And I didn't say, it was like 6 p.m. when I called, objective secure. One American killed, confirmed, her body, because I got a physical description from the country team, and she was one. Anita Tatar was one of the ones that were initially killed in that service elevator area. The country team's there just like waiting for me to brief them, all circled up. And I'm like, up. Like, tell us all about it. I'm like, and people just looked at me differently after that, And I was like, what the fuck did you think this was? There's not very many of us. My operator number is 965 since 1978. That's not me bragging. That's me just to conceptualize how small we are.
Pulls out this big dagger, and I just smile and say, you're not going to try and kill me with that, are you? Like, Chris, may God bless you many times this day. Done close to 1,000 door-kicking missions, and there's nothing was ever like that day. Nothing. I unlocked some sort of superpower on that day. Do something that I shouldn't have done. Just common sense, nothing to do with drills, procedures. I stopped my vehicle, put the window down and say, hey buddy, do you want a lift? Something compelled me to pick him up, to say, do you want a lift? And why I did that, I would not have normally done that. But something compelled to do that. Big smile, and he runs over and gets into the car. Start driving off, and he's like, oh, thank you so much for this. What's your name? I'm like, it's Chris. And he's like, tells me his name. And then he looked, how old are you? So I'm like 43. He goes, I'm 43. So when were you born? I said, so I was born in September. What day were you born? And I said, 15th. He's like, I don't know what day I was born, but this is a good sign, because that means in December 1975, Chris and his name were both. And he chuckles. He's like, he says some other stuff I can't really recall. Driving a bit further, and he reaches into his pocket. My internal spider sense is not triggered here. I don't feel threatened, anything. I don't feel. And he pulls out this big dagger, and it's an odd dagger. And what I thought was curved, but it had a double tip, had 2 tips at the end, which I'd never seen. And I smile and say, "You're not going to try and kill me with that, are you?" And he's like, "No, I'm not going to kill you. This is I carry this when I'm traveling on road in case I come across any demons or evil spirits. It comes in very handy." And he chuckles to himself and puts it away. So then moving on, and I turn to him, judging how you're dressed, I take it you're going into the city. And he's like, no. Please just drop me off at the first village we come to. And I said, oh, we're approaching one now. And it's an African village, so it's an African village. And I went, this village? He's like, yes, but don't take me to the village. Drop me just off outside. So, okay. So as we come to a stop, he opens the door. And then as his foot hits the ground, something happens. His foot hits the ground and his face changes. When I say changes, it's still the same man. But it's a bit, if I was, do you know when someone offends you and you pull the face like you're from going from smiling, you'd be like all serious. Like, what? His face changed. And then he said, Chris. And when he's Chris, I felt it in my heart. it wasn't loud, but it
Was stern.
it was like it wasn't like he didn't shout Chris, but he could have. Like, and it's hard to explain, but it was loud. It wasn't loud, but it was deafening. It was like, Chris, may God bless you many times this day. And then like that, his face just snapped out of it, and he's like, thank you, thanks. Normal voice, normal face. And he closed the door, and I drove off. And I got 150 yards down the road. I couldn't see him again. I think he's gone into a house or a hut or whatever. And I kind of thought that was odd. But 30 hours later, after the most remarkable day of my life, I came to think about it a lot more.
What happened?
Well, then, a few later, 5 terrorists attacked the D2 complex. 5 hours there, so. But everything, this thing, not the strange thing, but traditionally I would see myself as unlucky. And if someone had said, this is going to happen on your watch, I'd normally say, well, I'm probably going to be on leave, somewhere else, not available, don't hear about it. But the moment I dropped that man off, said, may God bless you many times this day, everything was perfect. I got my hair cut. I went cut after that. Had a haircut. I then had lunch. I then got home, had a shower. And again, I'm not going to go into detail of the incident, but every second counted. And if anything then was off, everything was just perfect. And then not only perfect then, but everything else was just like, yeah.
What were you doing when the incident kicked?
I just got out of the shower.
How did you hear about it?
A friend of mine who was in the complex called me and was like, Chris, there's a complex attack going. I'm not armed. I'm laying low in my office. You got to come down here. So I'm on my way. I didn't know where it was. I'd never been there before. Put it in my... I went and responded.
Now, from what I understand, you were told to stand down and not enter.
No.
That's not true.
No. I didn't... No. The difference is I had no authority. No one had told me to go, and no one told me not to go.
Did you feel...
Yeah.
Did anybody go with you?
Not initially. But again, we're going into this grey area now of what I can say, can't say. But the bottom line is I turned up with a view to doing something else, and people were being murdered. And I heard it. I heard a woman, I had gunfire grenades going off. I asked, and I assumed that was dealing with the terrorists. And I was like, hey, special forces in there, police in there. And the security guard, no one's there here, no one's in there. Around about that same time, I heard a woman scream, and then I heard gunfire, and that cut the scream off. And I realised that woman had just been murdered, or somebody shot. And I was like, right, I'm going in. And then the rest is history, and not really up for discussion at this point.
Can I ask you yes or no questions?
You can ask me, and I'll just maybe say, if I can't comment, I won't comment. I'll say no comment.
Did you engage anybody when you entered the building? Did you personally save anybody from that building?
Video evidence of someone who looks like me doing stuff like that.
How many people did the individual that looks like you save?
Literally, people say 700.
700
That's
people.
what they've said, that I'm responsible for saving that day. And I don't think I'm going into any like legal area here, but I mean, maybe from the VMOD, they might be like sharpening their knives right now for what I've not said. But I went in alone, but then it became a team effort with some remarkable individuals.
Kenyans?
Yes.
How uncomfortable are you right now?
Pretty uncomfortable. So,
is there anything you want me to ask you?
No, I mean, we can just talk about, again, I think the whole incident, people can see, and the only thing that I can add to the incident is things that I did inside there. and things that happened. And people have got good imagination, so you can imagine what happened inside there. So I don't need to upset people and break any kind of rules. But that incident happened, and then it finished the next day, and I was there throughout. And I'm just not going to say about what I did exactly. People can probably work it out. But it was the most remarkable day of my life, and I've done close to 1,000 door kicking missions, and there's nothing like that day, nothing. And people talk about state, and whether it be training, I still do CQB today, and you still enter that flow state when you cross the threshold, whatever that be, whether it be skydiving, whether it be a CQB, whether it be some sort of sporting event. There's, when you get dialed in and you like it's on. That day I unlocked some sort of superpower on that day. When I crossed that threshold or whatever that point was, it felt like I could see further. I could hear things. I could move faster. I was stronger. My mental agility. It really unlocked this flow state, which was like, I'd had similar incidents before my military career, but on that day,
they basically carjacked a semi-truck. They stuffed them in the back of the trunk of the car. I popped the trunk and let's do Iraqis out.
Hey guys.
And I thought, man, no wonder the bad guys think we are the greatest in the world. Next up. Yes. For what? Different. The daily people. We could hit them at the right, like we they got into a certain, felt like we could go get perhaps they get the time and basically we had they're gonna so I'm a mixed bag. So and we did some they deal with that threat. Yeah, we have some funny. Phases we thanks to basically so So killed those two. And I thought, man, no wonder they think. There was a couple of us, Carter thought they were. It's in the world. They just did. And so that was. But it will.
It sounds.
Yeah.
Do, do you
Um,
go?
it's, it doesn't mean it means the decision maker to get to that decision to pull it through gets less. S- s- I don't. You, you just bad guys. You know, do infinite kill. And, so- which it's always, and you just, you know, um, they don't know any better, but yeah, I think see it's time as well. I think. Yeah, so that we active, and it hadn't been done. Nobody done a daily vehicle helium-borne interdiction since like the one for. But Scott's continued. You know, it's like we really think. Period. Um, so, wait. Um, yeah. And it was, and so to activity and what we were doing. Sure. Tools. The objectives to I see a team, the team was responsible for having right. on there had a skin. So I'm the crew chief. No, say if parts. No. Time goes. What's so, like field was yeah. Uh, I, uh, the two who fucking came back in to be able to fire up. For what's the saying? Be lucky then we were yeah in terms of what MC which did up him on and you know we were and yeah we did yeah
Yeah.
yeah you now to experience yes.
This is your first real world op.
Yep.
Hot rescue mission in Panama.
Actually the first guy to go in. But he looked at me, I looked at him, he stuck his hand out, and it was game time. Nothing needed to be said. Breacher on my team knocked the charge down, and it fell, and I was like, what is that? It was P for plenty. It probably would have killed me. Got quiet. You could hear the prisoners screaming from when we touched down, and we were ready to exfil with Kurt.
Oh, this is your first real world op.
Yep.
Hostage rescue mission in Panama. That's fucking crazy.
Well, and what's interesting, I'll never forget it. Guy I went through selection with. Went through selection with him, went through OTC, went to A Squadron with him, and now we're on the mission together. We're on the pods, sitting on the bench seat on the pod. And he's right here. And he's going to be on the roof with a Mag 58. I actually go into prison. I'm one of the guys that go in. I was actually the first guy to go in through the prison door. And I'll get to that in a minute. But he looked at me, I looked at him, he stuck his hand out. I shook his hand. No words were said. Nothing needed to be said. Never forgot it. And it was game time. Nothing needed to be said. I'll never forget it. And then we took off. We'd gotten word that in the major section, right going down to the commandancia and in the prisons over here, there was a machine gun set up. There was PDF. They had to be dealt with, or they were going to fire at the birds coming by. Well, we had a sniper team that came down. They came down off a hill overlooking the intersection. Guy had a bolt gun. Guy had a Mag 58. Guy had a three dudes. Guy had an M203. And the theory was they're in position. They're in Overwatch. And as soon as they see one of the PDF do this, they're going to light them up. And what I understood happened was the first two birds go over. I was in bird number 2 over. There was nobody in the intersection because I remember looking. I was on the right side. I remember looking for anybody. There was nobody there. We went over. They heard the birds. Then they come out. And then they're going to shoot at the second set of birds, bird 3 and 4. And they got lit up by the guys in the Overwatch position. Interestingly enough, never forget this, Christmas lights are on the top of the prison. It's December 20th, 1989, right before Christmas. There's Christmas lights. I'll never forget.
Wow.
And we were offset from the prison. Pilots did this number and then got in line. And the line landed right on top of the prison. And it peeled off. I got in position by the cupola. I had security position looking through the window and the stairs, the cupola on top. And then the second two set of birds came in. They dispersed. Breacher on my team went up to put a charge up. And in the process of pulling the time fuse, he knocked the charge down. And it fell from me to you. And I was like, what is that? I didn't even, you know what I mean? It didn't even dawn on me it was the charge. Fortunately, when he went to pull it, he did not ignite the time fuse. That probably would have killed me. If memory serves me correct, it was a C6 charge, which was P for plenty, brother. I mean, chance of getting in that door. It was P for plenty. It probably will me. Because I ended up going from being the guy looking through the window. Now I'm going to be the number one guy, going through the door. And I was down on the knee. And I'm like, what is that? I couldn't believe it. And I remember my team sergeant up. He goes, hey, man, get the backup charge ready. Because I had a backup charge. And I go, why am I going to get the backup charge ready? Because the breach right there, within the breacher went back around. And he said, hey, come on. He basically had me come up for cover. I covered him on the door. He put the charge back up. We initiated it. And dude, it was a boom. I'll never forget it. It was a boom. When I was looking in the cupola window, the lights were on. I thought the charge knocked out the lights, and it was because it was pitch black. What had actually happened, the snipers, the support guys had hit the generator and killed the lights. I didn't know that till later. They killed the lights in the prison, so it was pitch black. I come around, door is long gone on the cupola. I step in, there's no link, Shawn. Here's the door. The steps go right up to the door. There's no landing like this. You step in and then go down the steps. It goes right up the door, like, out here, you guys got. So I almost, by the grace of God, I don't know how I didn't trip because it's pitch black. I'm walking into it, and by the grace of God, somehow I didn't trip. Went down. The guys are following me, and people are like, well, why are you number one, man? I was the most expendable guy. It's that simple. No. I was the new F team. F team and G team were going in. F team secured the route inside the prison, the stairwell, the hallway, that kind of stuff. G team was the ones that are going to extract him. They're going to be the team that gets him out.
Basically set up a corridor.
Yeah, we did. Went down. Basically me, I can't remember who it was. Me and another guy held that first stairwell. G team fled, went past us. Then I go down to the next stairwell. There was actually a room that we were going to clear. Well, we didn't clear it because it was padlocked. We're like, okay, not really a threat. Chances are nobody's in there because it's padlocked from the outside. So we didn't clear it. And I was standing there on the stairs. And then about then, the C-130 starts lighting Commandancia.
Shit.
Yep. Spectre starts lighting up the Commandancia. And it was loud. And I could see right out the window. I mean, right there. I'd look right there and see the Commandancia getting lit up by the Spectre. And because they've given us X amount of time, I'm not sure how much time it was, but not long. Maybe 5 minutes, maybe not. Who knows? I don't even remember. It wasn't long at all to get in, get situated, and then they were going to start lighting up Commandancia. So they started lighting it up. We're holding the stairwell. Somebody, a PDF guy, a guard, or whatever, poked his head around. Gary Harrell was there. He was the troop commander. He shot at him. I think he missed him. Pretty calm. He claimed later he thought he hit him, but I'm pretty sure he missed him. Because the guy took off. And then they came out with Muse. They put a C4 charge on his door and blew the door wide open. There was a guard that had told Kurt if there was a rescue attempt, he was going to kill him. Because Kurt, I think, asked him, hey, if there's a rescue attempt for me, what are you going to do? And he goes, I'll kill you. This guy was in the room right across from Kurt. So the priority was to get down to Kurt as soon as possible to beat this guy, before this guy gets a situational awareness, figures out what's going on, goes over to Kurt's cell and kills him.
You guys knew that before you... Was he in the cell across?
Yeah, he was. He was in the room across. And G-team went in and killed him. Yep. He was armed with a pistol. I think he was in a shower. If memory serves me correct, G-team found him in the shower. I think the guy went for his pistol, or already had a pistol in his hand, and they killed him. Yep. And they got Muse out. They brought in a little, kit aviator bag, and had body armor and a helmet. Body armor and a Kevlar helmet. Peeled him out. I remember seeing him go up the stairs. Couple things. We get up. We tell him, hey, PC secure to get the extraction birds out. The reason the book's called 6 Minutes to Freedom, because from when we touched down to when we called, PC secure, called for exfil was 6 minutes. Just not that we were, it's just the way it worked out. Not like we set time standard or anything like that. It just happened. It was 6 minutes from when we sat down on top of the prison to when we were ready to exfil. Muse was 6 minutes.
Wow.
We were at the very top. Stairwell. I remember I was here, Kurt Muse is here, and that door's here. Dude, I'll never forget this as long as I live. It got quiet for a minute. I don't know how long. Like a C-130 maybe was, taking a loop around, didn't have a, clear field of fire, whatever. Got quiet, and you could hear the prisoners screaming. And when you hear somebody screaming who, honest to God, thinks they're going to die, it's a sound you'll never forget. Now, I'll never forget it. It's nothing like you see in a movie or any of that other bullshit. These people were convinced they were going to die, and they're trapped in these prison cells. And I'll never forget that sound.
Damn.
Yep. So we go up, birds land. I was on bird 2. They get Muse on bird 1. They put him inside the bird. He's not on the pods. They put him inside the bird, and then they G-team, who rescued him, and then they're filling with him. I remember I got on the pod. I was high-fiving. I didn't even bother to hook up. But the commo guy hooked me up, thank God. But I'm, yada, yada, yada. Well, the bird lifts up, and it does this number over the prison wall and goes into the blackness. I mean, it's pitch dark. You can't see him. There was a cemetery right beside us. We lift up. We go over and I see muzzle flash. Dude shooting at us. And I didn't get a beat on him, but I put some rounds down at him to get him, and then the muzzle flash stopped. And I'm confident I did not hit the guy, but I at least got him to duck, so he's no longer shooting at our bird.
Yeah.
We lose track of bird one. We go back to Howard Air Force Base. We land. I'm like, awesome. Bird one went down. Bird one with Kurt Muse went down. What happened was they were serious. They had 2 pilots. They had 6 dudes with Kurt Muse. They were seriously overloaded. And the pilot gained speed and kicked back up, but they're power lines. So he's worried about hitting the power lines. Sets down on a road, a street, right on the other side of the cemetery. Well, 4 guys from G Team jump off and get out. And they're pulling security. The pilot like waves him back, come on, because he's going to go down. He's essentially going down the street to gain, airspeed, and then he's going to lift off. Well, they go on. 3 of the 4 guys don't hook back up. So that becomes critical here in a minute. Anyway, they go down. He takes a left on this street, and he starts to lift up, and the bird gets hit. Crashes. 3 of the guys all fell off. 1 guy was still, the team leader he was hooked in, so he was good to go. And Muse, who's in the back, is good to go. And there was a guy from my team, my 2IC, assistant team leader, was basically with him, escorting him. He was fine too. Bird goes down, breaks the right strut off. The right strut had landed on one of the guys who fell off. It landed on his foot. He lost his big toe. I want to say on his right foot. He lost his big toe. And he stayed in the unit. You can imagine when you lose a big toe, dude. Yeah. You're never the same. 2 of the other guys on the other side got shot. 1 guy got shot in the leg. 1 guy got shot at the very bottom of the body armor. They got hit. Bird goes down, tilts to the side. The pilots are doing their best to stop rotors. There's a rotor still going. They both get out of there. They go, and they kind of hunker around the station wagon. If memory serves me correct, there was a station wagon they hunker around. Team leader hunkers them around, gets the wounded guys over there. Muse is there. My assistant team leader, who's, got clipped upside the head, whose bell is rung. They kind of hole up around this vehicle. Some Panamanians are coming out. Muse tells him in Spanish, he speaks magnificent Spanish, to get the fuck out of it.
All of a sudden, here they come. You want to go home? I said, yeah. He goes, he was almost in tears. It's on YouTube. The video's there. I just say, keep staying so far enough. We just all jump on Cesar because Cesar pulled a pistol. I hit him in the head a couple times, and then he leans over, gets in his face. He taps on my chest. He said, good luck. That was the coolest thing in the world. They pulled his pants down around his ankles, and he's in his little bikinis, And the commandante goes, hey, folks, your helicopters, don't worry, cool, there's no problems. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Mark and I are looking at each other. We're just trying to process, right? All of a sudden, here they come, helos. So we see the MI come overhead, just doing a circle. There's no panic, there's no winning. Other guerrillas were there standing around watching us that had never seen us ever before. So we're like, holy geez, what's going down here? And did they look like Red Crossers? There's been a lot of criticism about that. Yeah, they did. White, I get it. And I'm glad they did. So they go down and get us in the canoes, and we cross the river, and we go up into the coca field, and we're all standing there. And there's a film of us. There's a film online of this going down of me. We're all talking. Helicopter lands while we're all standing there, and a fake news crew gets out, and the lead Colombian officer from the operation, and you got to admit, this is all volunteer, right? So you just had a handful of guys and a woman who was a nurse, a Colombian, was she naval or army? I can't remember. A woman married with kids volunteered to go in as a nurse. They're all in civilian clothes. I think the pilots, all they had was a little stuck in their boot. That was it. They were on their own, man. This cover was blown, everybody's dying. So the crew walks up and starts interviewing Cesar, the Commandante, and Goffes is there. And we're all like, what's happening? And he walked away with the Commandante for a little bit, and they came and they had large zip ties, which we'd already been trained to break out of, right? But still. So I said, man, look at that. So some of the Colombian soldiers said, you're not putting those on me. A couple of the soldiers said, I don't care. You're not zip tying me before the helicopter. So this one guy is in front of us. He's got red hair, and it's Mark and I and Tom. And he walks up to me, and he's almost in tears. And I said, who are you? He said, I'm from Australia. So I grabbed his ID, and I said, bullshit. I'm about to blow the whole thing. Actually, up at the unit, when I did the briefing, the Colombian colonel was up there with General Hutmacher. He said, yeah, Stancil almost ruined the whole fuck, you being a dumbass. So Mark gets next to me. He goes, I'm from Australia. I said, Mark, you're not Australian, and you're in Australia. And he gets nervous, and he starts to almost cry. And he goes, look. He said, yeah, you want to go home? I said, yeah. He goes, he was almost in tears. He goes, please come with us. We're taking you home. So I yelled, Mark, or to Tom, I said, Tom, put those fucking tie wraps on. And, but we almost blew it right there because Mark and I did not believe this guy, which we smell him out in a second. And when we did the debrief and saw him again, Lonnie's like, man, you just terrified me. I didn't know what to say to you guys. But I said, put on the tie wraps. Once we put the tie wrap on, and you can see it's on the videos there. I just say, Keith Stancil, 5.5 years in the jungle. I don't know who the fake news crew was, but they legitimately filmed. And we got on the bird. And so they're taking us to certain spots. So we were psychologically profiled, like who's going to be a troublemaker, who's not, who's going to be a troublemaker, who's not. I was in the troublemaker category. A couple other guys were. So I sit down for a second, and I start to stand up, and this Colombian soldier who was basically dressed like a civilian just grabs me, slams me in the seat. He said, here, next to me, man, next to me, bro. I said, all right. And so I broke out of my wraps. Just the same trick we're taught, to do that. I still start yelling at Mark. It's like, what are you doing? You're going to get in trouble. I said, break out of the wraps, break out of the wraps. And then Goffes and Cesar were supposed to give up their pistols, but I can't remember if Goffes did, but Cesar kept his. And he's right behind us. And so it was just a flurry, right? Everybody gets on the bird, and then they drop a case of beer off next aircraft for the guys and wave at them and pulled up the doors, and we just pulled up, And I remember the guy looking at me next to me. He's, Colombian SF guy, but he's obviously, and he's like, Colombian Army motherfuckers, right? So we just all jumped Cesar because Cesar pulled a pistol. And Mark has the med kit next to him, and there's Mark, take the needle out and stab him with the needle. I just happened to be closest to Cesar, so I got his chest, and that's what your assistant was showing, my bloody hand. They got pictures. I hit him in the head a couple times, and then Colombian really took over doing a number on him. But he had his hand with the bullet, and he disarmed him. And it was seconds, and it was over. It was over. We're clapping and yelling. They're yelling, Colombian Army, police. And the euphoria. I got to be careful not to cry right now. It's just incredible. And I look at Tom. I said, Tom, man, we're on this Russian piece of shit helicopter. I hope we get back. It was a high, right? Then Goffes, the abuser, the nasty guy, right? The old man Cesar he was going to go down fighting in the helicopter. Goffes just like a little bitch, just hit the ground. And they pull hands down around his ankles. And he's in his underwear, his little bikini, and they're holding him. He didn't put up a fight at all. And he's very abusive to Tom. Making 15 meters of chain, 3 5-meter chains around his neck, and threatened to shoot Tom one time. And so it's a couple minutes into it. Everybody's kind of calming down. We're all hugging and high-fiving. And they basically shot, I don't know what kind of sedative they gave to Cesar. And, they're taking pictures and everything. And Tom goes over to the office, and Mark and I are looking, heels down. I know, man, he's gonna like, and Tom's an old curmudgeon, man. He grew up Cape Cod, Colehagen, paid for flight school that way. He's a grumpy old bastard, man. He's just a no shit kind of guy and stuff. I thought for sure that Tom was do something to Cesar. He just leans over, gets in his face, he taps on my chest. He said, "Good luck." It was the coolest thing in the world.
Wow.
And then we're just, then they flew us to a fob there, and we got off of that. The helo got onto a 130. Then we went into the cap. And I remember, I'd like to know who the guy was. I think all the guys there. I don't think there were any SEALs. I think it was all Delta that was on the ground right there for our bird. I'm not sure. Big old dude. He had an American flag on. I just walked up to him. I just put my arms around him. I saw that flag. And I was like, we made it. We made it. And, but when I saw him, it was one of our people. I wish I knew who he was, laughing at me. He's a big old jerk. I jumped on his ass and just hugged him. And we were going home. So we jumped on the 130, and, they got us to, basically another base, and we jumped on Uribe's, Air Force One, that flew us into Bogota. And we got off of that, and then we got on the C-17 and headed home. It was, it's still emotional. I think basically 4 of my friends died looking for me. Didn't make it out. Sergeant Cruz didn't make it out, So there's a little bit of apprehension, maybe a little guilt, in there that we made it and they didn't.